When AI researcher Connor Leahy appeared on the InnerView in January, he made the extraordinary claim that the current rate of AI development is pushing humanity towards extinction. His worst-case scenario being that we might not make it to the end of 2024.
There is still hope. There is still hope. I don't know if there's going to be hope in a couple years or even in 1 year, but there currently still is hope.
Oh, wait, hold on. 1 year. I mean, that's... Come on, man. I mean, we're probably going to put out this interview like a couple of weeks after we record it. A few months will pass. We could all be dead by the time this gets 10,000 views.
Leahy is a leading figure in the AI field. He once reverse-engineered GPT-2, which was, at the time, one of the world's most sophisticated AI systems. He's also the CEO of Conjecture. It's a startup that tries to understand how AI systems think and then align them with human values.
AI and computer technology is an exponential. It's like COVID. This is like saying in February, 1 million COVID infections, that's impossible. That can't happen in 6 months. And it absolutely did. This is kind of how AI is as well.
After speaking with Connor, I wanted to get a second opinion about humanity's chances for survival, a less apocalyptic one. Our search took us to Pedro Domingos, a machine learning expert, author, and professor of computer science and engineering. Domingos watched the show and fundamentally disagrees with Connor Leahy. He says our future, and very existence, has a more optimistic outlook. Who's right, Connor or Pedro? You decide. Up next on the InnerView, the other side of the AI debate with Pedro Domingos. And Professor Pedro Domingos joins us now on the InnerView. Good to have you on the program, sir. You're a computer scientist, you're an expert on machine learning, and we're all anxious about the future, so we're turning to people such as yourself with all your expertise to give us some answers. How are you doing?
Great, how are you?
Good, thank you. Good. Did you watch our interview with Connor Leahy?
Yes, I did.
What did you think?
To be completely honest, I think he's a lunatic.
Okay, tell us why you think he's a lunatic.
I think his fears of AI are unfounded. I mean, there are people with more expertise and credibility than him who share those fears to some extent. So the fears are not absurd. But first of all, we have to understand that the problem, and counter to what he was saying in that interview, the intuition that people naturally have about AI is wrong. These fears stem from that intuition. And the intuition really has to do with the following, is that the only intelligence that we know is human intelligence. And so when we start thinking about AI, we immediately project onto it all of these human qualities like emotions, desires, intentions, consciousness, the will to power, etc., etc. And none of that is there. AI has none of that. This is just a bad inference on our part, which unfortunately is fostered by Hollywood movies, Terminator, science fiction scenarios, and even certain, I think, elements of the Western culture of like Genesis, where the creature revolts against the creator and so on. But we really, really have to distinguish that between that and the reality of AI. And hopefully, while we talk, this will all become a little bit more evident.
Okay, so we impose our views of dystopia, apocalypse. We assign human intentions to the AI, we make it teleological, we give it similar impulses to ourselves. It's a projection of ourselves. So, if it's not that, then what is it? I know you're not just this tech utopian who says everything's going to be amazing, it's wonderful, strap yourself in. So, how would you diagnose, I won't even say the problem, how would you diagnose the challenge of this emerging, growing technology?
Exactly. So, as you say, I'm also not a big fan of these also very science fiction AI utopias where AI is amazing and it solves all problems, it's all powerful and we're in paradise, right? That is also another illusion. Now, the big problem today, I think, is that there are real dangers of AI that we need to tend to, but they're very different from the ones that get a lot of airplay, like the extinction scenario and various other things. And really, to understand what the real dangers are, as you say, the key is to see AI for what it really is. And here's what AI really is, right? There's the popular definition, which is not wrong and is somewhat useful, which is AI is the subfield of computer science that deals with doing the kinds of things that traditionally only humans could, like reasoning, planning, understanding language and speech, vision, manipulation in the real world, common sense, all of that, right? This is all true, but it tends to foster that confusion with human intelligence. Now, the technical definition of AI is that it's the subfield of computer science that deals with solving intractable problems, meaning problems that take an exponential amount of time and memory to solve, as a result of which we have to solve them heuristically, meaning techniques that will not always succeed, which is also what humans do. But anything that does this is AI. So 99% of AI is very different from human intelligence, either in the problems that it's solving or in how it's solving them. If this is what AI is, then, for example, let's suppose we build an AI to cure cancer, right? Cure cancer is not something that humans have evolved to do, at least not consciously, right? But any AI that cures cancer is what we want. We actually don't care how it does it. It could be completely differently from us. So this is one aspect. Another aspect that is extremely important to our discussion, but sorely neglected, is that the types of problems that AI deals with, and this is a mathematical fact, have a very important characteristic, which is they are very hard and take a lot of time to solve, but you can check the solutions very easily and efficiently. This is absolutely crucial. If I charge an AI to cure cancer, I may not know how it figured out how to cure cancer, but I can tell whether the patient lives or dies. And I can also tell whether it's doing, whether it's having other bad side effects. So the fear, again, that Connor was talking in the earlier interview of like, well, machine learning is not under our control. How do you know which way these systems are going to evolve? It is under our control, because all we have to do is check that it's giving the solutions that we want. And I can easily see a future in which what most humans do most of the time is just that.
Okay, so let's take the other side of the human nature coin. You say we impose our own values and we breathe a human spirit into AI incorrectly, which gives us the wrong assumptions, and you believe Connor's done this. But we also know that there's an arms race going on between governments, with corporations involved, billions of dollars literally being invested into this, and with human nature, human emotions. We tend not to behave very well when we're competing with each other on a state level, on a corporation level, when we're rushing to control a technology. With that weaponization of AI, is there a possibility for bad things to happen?
Absolutely. And in my view, that is one of the real dangers. So, the unlikely danger is that is the Terminator danger. AI will take over the world, the robots will kill us all. That to me is just very far-fetched. The danger of us making mistakes with AI is actually not hypothetical, it's real. We already make mistakes with AI. Now, you're right, there is an arms race between countries and between companies, but an arms race is a double-edged sword. A lot of progress has come historically, a lot of technology from these arms races. So in a way, these races are a good thing. Now, there are also dangers in these arms races, and those are the things that we need to guard against. But here's the thing. The key to guarding against these things that could go wrong with AI is to make the AI better, not worse. AI that is dumb is a bigger risk than AI that is smart. The problem with AI alarmists in one form or another is that because AI is so potentially dangerous, they all want to make it more constrained, less intelligence. This is precisely the opposite of what we want. Big dangers are made by faulty systems. And AI has great, scope for faults, but safety will come from making the AIs better, number one. Number two, you have to realize that when there's an arms race, we often, whether or not we like the arms race, we have no choice but to engage in that race. If our opponents win the race, we're in trouble. And
So,
in AI,
yeah,
whoever wins the AI race will have economic, political, military advantages. So we have no choice but to win that race.
Is that one of the reasons why you're against the moratorium that even people like Jeffrey Hinton are calling for? Because if you stop, maybe you don't know who else is continuing and you're then at a disadvantage.
So first of all, just to be clear, Jeff Hinton did not sign that moratorium letter. He signed a second letter that was later produced by a different set of people that is a more moderate alarmist point of view. So we have to distinguish between, the lunatics on the one hand and the people who are alarmed but not quite as extreme, right? And the moratorium letter, the moratorium letter is just wrong in countless different ways, right? One of them is that it takes seriously this scenario of Terminator. It also raises a whole bunch of other, dangers and exaggerates them. And then it proposes things that don't make sense or will not work. And think about this. That letter called for a 6-month moratorium on AI because of the imminent danger to humanity, right? If we didn't stop AI, it was now improving so quickly that, who knows, we could go extinct anytime. Well, it's been a year. It's been over a year since that letter was published. What has happened? Has AI taken over? Not even close. This is ridiculous, but those people aren't apologizing for the stupidity of the letter. So, why am I against that letter? For more reasons than I can count.
Okay, let me just get something absolutely clear. Do you believe that the singularity will not happen? That idea of AGI and, you've mentioned Terminator a few times, the machines becoming self-aware, because that seems to be the existential fear. Do you think that is impossible? Do you think we'll always be in control? Or do you think that even if that happens, it's sort of irrelevant because the machines might not try to kill us all if they do have that switch?
No, so you just conflated two different things, the singularity and machines becoming self-aware.
Okay.
So machines can become self-aware, and I think there's a good chance that they will. And there's no particular danger coming from that. That is generally not what we call the singularity.
Okay.
What we usually call the singularity is machines becoming exponentially more intelligent, becoming super intelligent, leaving humanity in the dust, and then we're in a world where humans no longer have any understanding that, what's going on. The idea of singularity comes from mathematics of something going to infinity, and that is physically impossible. So there will be no singularity in that sense, number one. Number two, for the reasons that we were just talking about, even in the somewhat weaker sense of the machine just being something that's beyond our understanding again, because of the type of problems that we're solving, the machines could be super intelligent and we could still be in control. Now, it is true that we are now already in a phase of technology that is different from the past because we do not entirely understand our technology. And this is what makes people afraid of machine learning and whatnot. But here's this thing. We've always lived in a world that we do not completely understand. Right? Always. We actually understand it better now than we did 1,000 years ago. And the fact that some of those things that we do not entirely understand are created and within certain parameters controlled by us is actually a great improvement. So we should not be afraid of machine learning. Machine learning is something that serves us. Let me give you an analogy. If you own a dog, you don't worry that the dog one night is going to kill you. But a dog is just a wolf that we domesticated. A dog is almost, entirely a wolf. A robot is something that we have evolved step by step. Machine learning is kind of a sped up evolution process. But anything in the learning that diverges from our goals immediately gets killed within the computer. So the idea that some very dangerous path of AI will evolve, I've never seen any of these AI alarmists explain exactly how that happens. It's some kind of magic.
Can it not use us against each other?
It could. So in principle, it could. But we humans can use ourselves against each other, right? We do all the time. right? In fact, we're way better at doing that. Like, for example, today, people are much better at manipulating Chat GPT than Chat GPT is at manipulating people. In fact, the thing that's ironic about Chat GPT is, on the one hand, it has read, 1 trillion words, it knows everything, but on the other hand, it's like a little baby. It's completely defenseless in our hands. So AI could manipulate us, but why would it? What's going to happen is already happening to some degree, is that humans will try to manipulate other humans using AI. Again, the AIs aren't going to be trying to take power on their own behalf, because why would that happen, right? But humans are certainly going to be using AI, and we need to protect ourselves against the humans who would misuse AI. And the only way we can do this is by having better AI than they do.
Pedro, tell me the difference between good regulation and bad regulation.
So here's the key, is that regulating AI per se is a complete mistake. There are regulating AI per se is like regulating mathematics or regulating programming languages. We don't regulate mathematics because it could be used by bad guys to do bad things. That's ridiculous. We don't regulate, quantum mechanics because people might use it to make nuclear weapons. We regulate the nuclear weapons, right? So there are uses of AI that are dangerous, but as a first approximation, things that are illegal should be illegal whether or not they're done with AI.
Okay, so yeah, just to clarify that before you move on. So it's the idea that you would keep existing laws and practices in place to make sure that teenagers or young children are not exposed to AI-inspired or infused pornography on social media based on whatever's already there. You don't regulate the AI itself.
We don't regulate this up, but now here's the important part. What needs to be done, and we see this also happening to some degree, but not as much as it should, is that some laws and regulations have to be changed because, for example, copyright is an example. And a lot of the laws against, discrimination and things like that, these laws were all made on the assumption that the decisions are being made by humans. And precisely because AI is different from human intelligence, it makes different mistakes. It is prone to different, bad behaviors. And so sometimes the laws will need to be adjusted on a case-by-case. Self-driving cars is a really good example, right? Some laws actually can be relaxed because the problems of the human decisions go away. But new things need to be brought in, but those things need to be done we need regulations about self-driving cars. Right. We need regulations about AI medical diagnosis, not about AI per se.
Okay, so we need to catch up with it, and it's a dynamic, evolving process with amendments, like our constitutions and so on. Okay, so for those culturally, and this is an interesting one because when I was looking into you and doing my research, I found that your book, the Master Algorithm, is huge in China. It's huge in the East, if you like. And when it comes to AI, Western nations tend to be more anxious about this, especially the Europeans. Why is that? Tell me what's going on there. What's your take on that?
No, yeah, this is actually very interesting because my literary agent, when we started working together, he said, he's a very savvy guy, he said, this book is going to sell really well in Japan, in China, in Korea. It's not going to sell well in France or Germany or whatever. And he was completely right, right? And some of it I think is this culture in the West of coming from, Christianity, of the creature revolting against the creator. And then people again project that onto AI. So this, I think, is one aspect. People in Asia are much more optimistic about technology. People in Europe are very pessimistic. In America, somewhere in between, I think some of it has to do with this culture. Some of it has to do with how far you are on the development curve. Less developed countries see the opportunity for improvement in technology, and AI is a fantastic opportunity for improvement. People in Europe, where I'm from originally, to be honest, they tend to take the benefits of technology for granted, and they're just focused on protecting themselves from change, which to me is just incredibly frustrating. And America has a much more, optimistic entrepreneurial culture, so it's not as bad as Europe, but it's also somewhat sensitive to this type of fear, which I think is incredibly counterproductive. Among other things, it's already causing Europe to fall behind in the AI race. So like Europe and the United States used to be ahead. Now it's between America and China, and Europe is absurdly falling behind.
Yeah.
Now that AI has become really important, Europe is falling behind because it's over-regulating it and making it impossible basically to be at the forefront.
So let's dial it back a little bit and assume that Connor is wrong and that the apocalypse is not imminent and that the singularity is not going to happen anytime soon. But there are a million steps between here and that point. And along those steps, there are fears of people becoming redundant, not having access to jobs, not having access to opportunities, your education being just, moot, and the useless element, and that feeds into anxieties, the fact that AI will basically run the world and only the humans that have skills attuned to that would be those with jobs and have prosperity and stuff. And so people legitimately worry about not only themselves, but their children and grandchildren. Talk to me a bit about that, Professor.
Yes, so the fear of the great AI jobs apocalypse is another of the great fears around AI. And again, that fear is wrong. And we can see why it's wrong and also what are the things that people should be concerned about and doing. The reason it's wrong is, again, like the fear of extermination or not, it's a natural fear. But AI is just another form of automation. It's the next wave of automation that began with the Industrial Revolution, computers, et cetera, right? And every decade over the last 200 years, people have been paranoid about all the jobs that the current latest form of automation would destroy. This has been a drumbeat throughout, the modern age. And every time you always wind up with more jobs than you had before. Think about it. 200 years ago, almost everybody on Earth was a farmer, right? And then agriculture was automated, and now the fraction of people that are farmers is dwindling. Let's say it's, 5 or 10% worldwide, right? In developing countries, it's like 2 or 3%. The other 98% of the people are not unemployed. They're doing jobs that you couldn't even imagine 200 or 100 years ago, right? When ATMs came along, people worried that there would be mass unemployment among bank tellers. There are more bank tellers in the world now than there were, 50 or 70 years ago. Okay? And it's going to be the same with AI. Now, why does that happen? People, again, have this vision that AI will come and replace human intelligence. One day, suddenly, AI is better than humans at everything, and we've reached AGI. And then the apocalypse happens, or the jobs apocalypse in that case. The reality is the following, is that any given job consists of multiple tasks. Think of my job, think of your job. And some of those AI can do today, maybe some of them tomorrow, some of them maybe not for a long time. So what's going to happen is not that a bunch of jobs disappear, but that they change. And this is actually where people need to be updating themselves, is how do I use AI to automate certain parts of my job? And then the good news is I'll actually have more time, more capacity to do the other less boring parts of my job. So it's not man versus machine. It's man with machine versus man with no machine. Imagine a bank with no computers competing against a bank with computers. They have no hope. It's going to be the same with AI, right? So this is one aspect. Another aspect is the following. When, the key effect of AI is that it lowers the cost of intelligence. Really, in one sentence, that's it. Intelligence becomes way cheaper, right? As a result of which, economics says the demand for it will go up. So we will have thousands more things being done than can be done today because the intelligence for them is too expensive. And then and that raises the value of the complements, right? When the price of butter goes down, the value of bread goes up because people can now have more bread and butter. And the complement of AI is precisely human intelligence, human judgment, human skills, the kinds of things that we can do that AI can't. So we're going to have more jobs in that way. And on top of that, because AI makes things cheaper, people will just have more money in their pocket at the end of the day, which they can now spend, for example, on a better house, creating jobs for construction workers. So AI will actually create jobs in areas that actually have nothing to do with it. Now, it's hard to see all these things, and it's easy to see the jobs that might disappear, but that's the effort that we have to make. And then we have to seize those opportunities, and those who do seize those opportunities, my advice to everybody, for their children, for education, is like, figure out how to apply AI to your field of interest, whether it's medicine or business or whatever. And the future is yours. Not the AI experts who know AI but not business or medicine, and not the old-style doctors or business people or whatever.
Okay, that's a lot to contemplate, actually, and I was going to ask you, do you have any advice from like my kids or any advice that I can pass on to my kids? But you folded that into your last answer. So, okay, I'm learning a lot from you and others. Thanks so much for joining us, Pedro Domingos. Wish you all the best.
Thank you again for having me.
Take care.